Finally, I woke up to the news this morning that Sucker Punch Productions have at last officially confirmed the existence of and release date for Ghost of Tsushima on PC, something I have been anticipating for at least the last couple of years, waiting very patiently for it because I have been aching to replay what is one of my favorite games of all time. Now, of course, I could do it on PlayStation 5 because while the PS4 game got a classic Sony sleazy paid upgrade for PS5 enhancements a year or so after release, but I was happy to wait to be properly free of the inherent compromises and limitations of the console experience as a whole. To play it again, where this stunningly well-crafted game can be presented at its very best like it deserves. Now, at or nearer to launch, I might do a video or two on the PC-specific things and whatnot. Right now, we don't even have so much as recommended specs to talk about. But for now, today, in my excitement, in my enthusiasm, in my joy of hearing this news at last, I wanted to share, or reshare really, an explanation I first published in 2020, shortly after I finished the main game, about why it is so fantastic. Like I said, this was recorded just after I finished the main game, but before I kept playing it in the post-game to make it the second of only 2 PlayStation games I have loved so much I bothered to platinum trophy them. I don't really care about trophies at all, but there are 2 games that PlayStation have that are so good I was looking for any excuse possible to have more goals in the game to chase after. And that's what the platinum trophy was. The other, as you'll hear me mention, is of course Spider-Man. If you never played this game, because it did come out as a PlayStation exclusive, and you've come here to this video to find out what the fuss is about, the short version of the conclusion is do not sleep on this game. Ghost of Tsushima truly is something properly special. And now, if you'll indulge me, you can listen to past me explain exactly why it is special and what makes it special. Even though, on the face of it, it is actually kind of uninspired and generic. Why won't people shut up about Ghost of Tsushima? I don't know about you peeps, but it seems like every gaming-related creator I follow on YouTube, Twitter, or Twitch is talking about, making content about, sharing screenshots about, or reviewing Ghost of Tsushima. So much hype for what some derisively call a Ninja Assassin's Creed. And on the face of it, mechanically speaking, Ghost of Tsushima isn't that special. As an open-world, action-adventure game, it cannot too unfairly be called uninspired. Hello again, I am Blunty, and before you hate rate this video because you love Ghost of Tsushima and you don't want anyone to say anything bad about it ever, and you're really angry about that thing I just said, pop a comment about your favourite thing about Ghost of Tsushima, give me a thumb up in faith that I'm about to swing that ship around, and make sure you're subbed and belled because the algorithm here hates my bare-ass samurai self, and like the Mongols, we can only defeat it by all working together. Now, last night, I rolled credits on Ghost of Tsushima. On the first day, I live-streamed it for 9 hours, then I played another 4 hours off-stream that same evening. On the second day, I streamed it for 8 hours, played another 5 off-stream. On the third day, well, that was a Minecraft stream day, but after that Minecraft stream, I played Ghost of Tsushima for another 13 hours well into the small AM hours of the next day. And on that 4th day, after I had a bit of a nap, I sunk into the game again for another 17 hours straight, interrupted only by meals and biological needs. And at about 1 AM on that day, well, I guess the next day, 1 AM Tuesday, the credits rolled. Doing the math, that's about 56 hours of game time over just 4 days. And after this video goes up, I'm probably diving back in for the post-game stuff, and I think I'll try to platinum trophy it, making it only the second ever PS4 game I've bothered to do so in. I don't really care about trophies at all, but because like in Spider-Man, I really just want more excuses to be in this game world, and a trophy chase gives me more excuses. So clearly, I love this game. So why did I open this video calling it uninspired of all things? No, it's not clickbait. My God, people need to stop using that word, or overusing that word anyway. So, when I call Ghost of Tsushima uninspired, I'm really only talking about the mission structures, the bones of the game. Because let's be fair, the game doesn't do much to snap free of the basic formula of open world game design, and a lot of it is easy to see and feel as you're playing it. But that's just the paper. It's the brushwork that makes this game something more than the sum of its parts. It has a typical open world huge map, much of which is just empty space between missions to make travel time longer, to make the game feel bigger in scope, and the world feel larger. Because if you jammed all the missions the game has into one tiny map, people might complain that the world is too small, even though the amount of missions would be exactly the same. But the brushwork. It's one of the most exquisitely designed and executed world maps I've ever seen. Every location is stunningly pretty in its own right. There's a lot of variety, open fields and mountains and caverns and beach sides and little lake areas and the amount of carefully and subtly hidden little areas is a delight that truly rewards exploration. The map is huge, but while some open world games brag about map size in its own right as a marketing thing, trying to conflate map size with actual game content, they're nowhere close to the same thing. Here, the big and often empty map spaces between locations serve to make the world of 13th century Japan feel grounded, real, lived in, honest. And the way you navigate this world, using an absolute minimalistic UI where you don't get waypoint markers, you just get the wind guiding you, or you follow smoke on the horizon, or birds, or foxes, or all these little environmental clues to lead you through the game. They're all done in superbly subtle ways, and I think we're going to see a lot more of this kind of thing in more games as we go forward. We've already seen some of this shift. Remember in games that had climbing mechanics on rock faces, they used to be sort of bright yellow or marked in a really obvious way or glowing or something. And over the years we get subtler and subtler and subtler about, which rocks you can actually climb onto and stuff. Well, that's what this game does, but with every mechanic. Outside of that, the missions, both main storyline and side missions, are themselves pretty generic stuff. You've got the classic open world stuff of clearing out enemy bases or camps, some small, some big, some in stages, some require stealth, some need a more direct approach, some you have to keep hostages safe, some you're working alongside NPCs that you have to keep alive, some ask you to blow up the entire place at the end of it once you've cleared everybody out. It's all very generic in structure, and a gajillion other games have done these things in pretty much exactly the same way. Then you've got the collectathons, the fetch quests, the hidden area thingies, and some Witcher 3 style clue hunt and track following stuff. Nothing about how this game structures its missions and stories is anywhere close to inspired. It's very textbook open world game design, and that could be very disappointing considering you can tell at a glance how much work Sucker Punch have put into the presentation alone of this game. But it's the brushwork. It's everything they wrap around this copy-paste game design stuff that makes Ghost of Tsushima special. Take the comparisons to later-day Assassin's Creed games. On the surface, yeah, quite similar in approach to story and content and combat and stuff. But this is one of the most delightfully fluid, flexible, and exquisitely executed free-flow combat systems I have ever used. It just might be the very best, as a matter of fact. I've bounced off every Assassin's Creed game I've tried to play. I've wanted to like them. I've given them a fair go as much as I could. Black Flag, Syndicate, and Odyssey in particular, just for their interesting settings and characters alone. I really wanted to get into them, but the combat always felt to me very restrictive. Boring and stilted and sluggish and very animation driven. It's just not very fun for me outside of the cool finisher animations in Syndicate and Forward. So I kept bouncing off those games because of that. And in some part, more common in the earlier Assassin's Creed games, the enforced stealth stuff, where if you don't play the game in exactly the way it wants you to play and follow the exact path it wants you to do and do the mission in the exact way it wants you to do the mission, it fails you and you have to start again. I hated that. Let me play the game how I want to play the game, goddammit. Same thing in Witcher 3. I can see why people love it so much, but the combat is just kind of thick, sluggish, and blech. Batman Arkham Asylum, often credited with reinventing and reinvigorating modern free-flow combat systems, feels fast and dynamic and powerful and fun, but it's usually just boiled down to,
wait for the attack warning prompt to go flishy flashy, press the counter button, wash, rinse, repeat. It was very mechanical. It looked cool, and it was super fun for the first hour or so, and you felt like a badass, but then it got really, really repetitive and really boring. Then we got to Spider-Man. It was a masterpiece of combat engineering. Its flow was amazing, spectacular. See what I did there? I felt fully in control the whole time. I could do what I want, when I wanted, how I wanted, and the variety and dynamicism was second to none. And it was one of half a dozen reasons I consider that game to be one of the best of all time. And here, in Ghost of Tsushima, I'd put the combat system on par with, maybe even above, Spider-Man. On the one hand, it's not as aerobatically dynamic, of course, being that you're a samurai and not a superpowered acrobat with webbing. In Spider-Man, you feel incredible, unstoppable, superheroic, because that's what you're supposed to feel. But in this game, you're supposed to feel like a guy, a samurai being forced to compromise your fighting code of honor, mixing honorable fighting techniques with underhanded trickery and sneakiness. And it's the brushwork. The implementation of the fighting stances you can switch between dynamically at any point, even mid-swing, combined with several different kinds of combat throwables, combined with projectile weapons, combined with special techniques, and combined with armor and sword charm, passive effects and boosts you can combine in a multitude of ways. It's amazing to me how elegantly and smoothly all of this blends together, not just as a set of systems, but even right down to the animation flow as you're moving between these different systems. It combines to make one of the most rewarding combat systems I've ever seen, regardless of how you want to approach things, as a head-on samurai, or as a ninja-like ghost, or literally any combination and ratio between the two that you think is most fun. It's powerful and flexible and just beautiful. It is at once amazingly simple from a control side of things, but also deeply complex in how many different ways you can chain things together or combine them. It's easy to understand, but challenging and unforgiving at the same time. You never ever feel just unstoppable. Not even to basic mob enemies. One mistake and you can be dead. Lose your rhythm and you're dead. Fail to control your positioning and you're dead. Use the wrong technique or stance at the wrong time and you are dead. It's not as unrelentingly punishing by design as a Souls-type game is, or to use a thematically appropriate example, Sekiro. But it's far more demanding, dynamic, and interesting than Assassin's Creed, or Batman, or Spider-Man, or The Witcher 3, etc., etc., etc. You never feel like the game is being cheap or unfair, and you never feel so unstoppable it becomes boring or mechanical. Literally every encounter, from the huge fortress raids to simple groups of Ronin or patrolling Mongols out in the open world, feel rewarding and challenging every time. And then you've got the story and characters. Again, nothing much in the way of true inspiration here. Everyone from our hero to the secondary and tertiary supporting cast are pretty one-dimensional, and they're pretty predictable for the most part too. They fall within all the standard archetypes, both in how they react and the way their own stories unfold. And they're all so intensely moody. There's only one light-hearted character in the whole cast, and he only gets a fistful of quite small story missions and doesn't play a major role, and by the end he's all serious face man too. On the one hand, this could be dreary and oppressive and exhausting emotionally, having all the characters be so very grimdark and woe is me and the world is a bad place and terrible things happen to everybody. On the other hand, these stereotype characters all bring to mind so many classic samurai films, which is of course the point. And to that end, the pastiche work here is pitch perfect. And to be fair, the game does take place during a brutal and unrelenting Mongol invasion, so not a time where many people would be feeling the light-hearted joys of flower picking. And the performances are, without exception, superb. Every voice, every line read was top class. Combined with the performance capture and camera work in cutscenes, it again brought to mind, very deliberate by design again, some of the best samurai cinematic moments from master directors like one of this game's stated inspirations, Kurosawa. And if you have not at least seen Seven Samurai from Kurosawa, if not things like Yojimbo, you've missed out on some of the most influential cinema on the face of the planet and you're a dope. But it's the brushwork. It is in the execution, not the structure, that this game sets itself apart from everything else. In the same way, a master calligrapher and their student can use the exact same paper, exact same brush, exact same ink. The results cannot be expected to be equal, and what Sucker Punch have done with these standard tools and materials for an open-world action-adventure game is the work of a master sensei. I loved their previous game, Infamous Second Son, for many of the same reasons I love this, actually, now that I think about it. This is on a whole new level for Sucker Punch. It is a truly fitting closer to the PlayStation 4's life. The last top-tier system exclusive it sees, likely the last big game I'll play on the PS4, and it is gobsmackingly beautiful, rewarding, occasionally very emotional, challenging, and above all else, a fun experience. I don't think we, or Sony for that matter, could have hoped for a better send-off for the PlayStation 4. And a very nice way to bookend the PlayStation 4 for me, personally. The very first game I played at launch was Infamous Second Son, and I adored it. And now, the team at Sucker Punch have closed out the PS4's lifespan for me with Ghost of Tsushima, and it is superb. It's uninspired in the same way that Japanese calligraphy is uninspired. The job is the same, the paper is the same, the brush is the same, the ink is the same, even the characters that they're painting are the same. But it's in the acts and execution where the art and the beauty and reward lie. And even though this game is uninspired, it is a work of art. Thanks for watching. I am Blunty, and I will catch you next time. Thank you, as always, to the glorious patrons up above. You are making a huge help. And to everyone else, thank you if you've done the things with the thumbs and the comments and etc, etc, etc. I am Blunty, and I will catch you next time.
A fortress of strength. With protection, safe and sure. Viewing the future.